Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking through some player props I like over on Prizepicks for today's NBA slate on Wednesday, November the 12th. We've got 12 games on this Wednesday night, so a big slate. I've got some early player props I do like for tonight. Taking a first look at the board on Tuesday night, recording this video the night before. Going to give you guys 3 picks, give you some information, some analysis behind why I like these 3 plays. Now, before we do that, want to make sure you guys hit that like button for me. If you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos, just do that. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you guys are new to the channel, if you don't have an account over on Prizepicks, make sure that you go sign up. Use that promo code NOAH when you do sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code and play $5. You'll get $50 worth of free lineups just for signing up and using code NOAH. And then we also do have a partnership with Sleeper, so I do want to give a quick shout out to Sleeper. If you guys don't have an account on Sleeper, you can download the Sleeper app, use promo code NOAH over there. You'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. As well, you'll get a free $20 entry. So this is a new promotion that Sleeper is doing. You get a free $20 entry just for downloading the app using code NOAH. No deposit required, so you don't have to put in any money to get that free entry. And any money that I think any money that you win off that free entry is promo funds. But then you can use those promo funds to play more entries in those lineups. If you win those pay out as credit. So this is a way for you to basically try out the Sleeper app without even having to put any money in. So it's a win-win for you guys. Highly recommend you get over to Sleeper while they are running this promotion. It's available again to all new users when you sign up and use code NOAH. So check them out if you guys don't have an account over on Sleeper. But before we do talk through our Prizepicks plays here for this Wednesday slate, I do want to recap the plays that we gave out in our video for Tuesday. So we gave out 2 picks on Tuesday. One of the picks that we gave out was on Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid did not play Tuesday night, so that prop voided. And then we took Jakob Poeltl over 8.5 points, which did hit. Poeltl, I think, scored 12 points. I think he went over like in the third quarter, was relatively sweat-free. But yeah, Embiid didn't play, so the 2-pick lineup that we gave out Tuesday, if you played it as a 2-pick, it just got refunded. So we're going to get back at it here for Wednesday, guys. Big slate. Let's try and make some money on this slate, and let's talk through some plays I'm liking. So the first 2 props that I like for Wednesday night are going to be fantasy score props. So I've said this a lot, in my videos. If you guys follow me on Patreon, if you're in my Patreon, you know that I take a lot of fantasy score props. I think fantasy score props have some of the biggest edges on Prizepicks. You can get some really good value on these props. Like sometimes you can get like 4 or 5 points worth of value. We took an over on Chet Holmgren's fantasy score on Tuesday night at 32.5, and I think the line closed at 36.5. We also took Ja Morant over 37.5. That line closed at 38.5. Ja had a terrible game. But that's besides the point. But yeah, you can get some really good value on on fantasy score props because there's just a lot of there's not as much data that goes into these. These are lines that Prizepicks have to create themselves. So there's going to be edges. There's props that are going to have really good value. So I got a couple of plays that I'm liking, looking at the fantasy score board. First one that we're going to take is going to be Lonzo Ball. We're going to take him for more than 24 fantasy score. So the Cavs are basically mass resting this game here against Cleveland, or against Miami. So they're going to be without Donovan Mitchell. They're going to be without Darius Garland. They're going to be without Evan Mobley. They're also going to be without Jalen Tyson. So they've got 4 main guys out. I mean, Tyson's been he's averaging like 26 minutes per game this season. He's been playing like 30 minutes a night as of late. So him being out actually matters a lot. Obviously, Mitchell, Mobley, Garland being out is big as well. So I'm assuming you're going to see Lonzo Ball start here. We've seen this already once this season where Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland were both out. It was early on in the season. It was on October 31st. Lonzo Ball did start in that game against the Raptors. He played 26 minutes, had 22.5 fantasy score, so he just went under this line. But it is worth noting in that game, Evan Mobley did play in that game. Jalen Tyson played in that game. So you take those guys off the floor, I think we can expect Lonzo to be even more productive. And Lonzo, throughout his career, has historically been a player that can be productive when he gets minutes. Now, he has dealt with injuries a lot in his career, so he's probably not the same player that he used to be. But if you look at his fantasy points per minute in his career, one in his rookie year, 1 fantasy point per minute, then 0.92, 1.01, 1.03, 0.95, 0.94. So far this season with the Cavs, he's only averaging 0.79 fantasy points per minute. So his per minute production has definitely dropped this season, but I think we can expect it to take a spike up here, obviously, because he's just going to have a bigger role. No Mitchell, no Mobley, no Garland, no Tyson. Like, there's just going to be a lot of opportunities for Lonzo to get fantasy points, whether it be from scoring, rebounding, getting assists, getting defensive stats. Lonzo is one of these players that can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor. He's typically a guy that doesn't turn the ball over a ton either, so you don't have to worry about that too much. With when it comes to fantasy score, obviously you do lose a point for turnovers, but like in his career, I think Lonzo, the most turnovers he's averaged in one season was like 3.1. Like, he's typically a guy that only is going to turn the ball over maybe a couple times a game, if that. And usually he can get some defensive stats to make up for that. The assists being worth 1.5 points each, those are solid, huge as well. But yeah, I think 24 fantasy score here for Lonzo is a little bit low, given the role that he should have tonight with all the injuries that the Cavs are dealing with for this game. And I think the matchup here against Miami is a pretty decent one. Miami this year, they're actually playing at the fastest pace in the league. Miami has historically been a slow-paced team. I think last season Miami was like the fourth slowest team, but this year Miami's playing at the fastest pace in the league. So facing the Heat is actually not a bad matchup. It's actually a pretty good matchup because we've seen the Heat play super fast. A lot of their games have been high scoring. This is a game that does have a pretty high total. It's got a 238.5 total. That's a high total, especially with Cleveland missing three of their main guys. Obviously Vegas is still expecting there to be a lot of points scored in this game. Now, Lonzo probably won't play like 35, 36 minutes. Like, he is kind of capped when it comes to his minutes. But we have seen him play 26 minutes, 26 and a half minutes this season in a couple games. Last time when Mitchell and Garland were out, he played, I think, 26 minutes in that game. I'm expecting him to play about 26 to 28 minutes here. This is the front end of a back-to-back for the Cavs. They do play again on Thursday. Lonzo most likely is going to rest on Thursday. So if there was ever a spot for the Cavs to give Lonzo a couple extra minutes, I think this would be it, knowing that he's probably not playing Thursday. So I like this play on Lonzo, taking him for more than 24 fantasy score. Now, the next prop that I like is on the Rockets, and I like Amen Thompson for more than 35.5 fantasy score. So Amen Thompson, a player that has historically been a productive per-minute producer. So far this season, you look, he's averaging 1.01 fantasy points per minute. Last season with the Rockets, he averaged 1.11 fantasy points per minute, and then in his rookie year, he averaged 1.14 fantasy points per minute. So typically a guy that's going to average over a fantasy point per minute when he's on the floor. He's another one of these players that just does everything when he's on the floor. He can score. He's a really good rebounder. He can get assists. He also gets a lot of defensive stats. He gets a lot of steals and blocks. And those are huge for fantasy score because they are worth 3 points each. And this is a really, really good matchup going up against the Wizards. The Wizards, we know they're one of the worst teams in the league. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the league so far this season. If you look at defensive rating, the Wizards have the second worst defensive rating in the league. The Wizards are also playing at the third fastest pace in the league. So it's a spot where Houston's going to be playing up in pace. They're going to be facing a terrible defense. The Wizards are also a team that turn the ball over a ton. I think this season the Wizards have like the highest turnover rate in the league. So if there was ever a spot for Amen Thompson to be able to rack up steals, maybe get some blocks as well, this is definitely the spot for that. I think the only knock you can have against Amen here is that this game does have blowout risk. Right now, Houston is favored by 17.5 or 16.5. So there is a chance that Amen only plays like 30 minutes here. Typically, he plays like 36 minutes. He's averaging 35.5 minutes per game. There's definitely a chance his minutes get cut a little bit if this game's a blowout. But I think we should expect him to be really productive when he's on the floor just because this matchup is so good for him with how he scores. He's a guy that really is good at attacking the basket. He scores a lot around the rim. That's where the Wizards are very vulnerable. The Wizards give up a lot of points in the paint. They give up a lot of points around the rim. That's where Amen's going to do a lot of his scoring. Rebounding wise, he rebounds really well. Facing a fast-paced Wizards team, there should be rebound chances for him. Same can be said for assist. When you're facing a fast-paced team, there's just going to be more assist opportunities available because you're going to have more possessions. And then we talked about his ability to rack up steals and blocks. This is a great spot for that because like I just said, the Wizards' highest turnover rate in the league. They're a team that will allow you to get a lot of steals. They give up a lot of block shots as well. It's literally the perfect matchup for Amen. If you told me this game was going to be competitive, I would feel really good about Amen going over this line. I think the way that he doesn't go over this line is that if this game turns into a big-time blowout. But if it does turn into a blowout, that's probably because the Rockets are putting up a lot of points. If the Rockets are putting up a lot of points, if they're being really productive on offense, there's a chance that Amen could still go over this line even in somewhat limited minutes. I think there's enough positives outweighing the negatives here. So I like this as our second prop for Wednesday. We're going to take Amen Thompson for more than 35.5 fantasy score. Last prop that we're going to take is going to be a rebounds prop. We're going to go to the Pelicans and Blazers game, and I like Donovan Clingan for more than 8.5 rebounds. So Donovan Clingan has been a pretty good rebounder, in his career. So last season, I want to say he averaged like a decent amount of rebounds per game. He started off the season coming off the bench, but then he moved into the starting lineup, was seeing more minutes. But last season, in about 20 minutes per game, he averaged about 8 rebounds per game in only 20 minutes. So far this season, he's averaging about 24.5 minutes per game, and he's averaging 8.8 rebounds per game in about 24.5 minutes. There have been a couple games where Clingan's minutes have got cut down, either because of maybe foul trouble, maybe blowout, maybe like bad matchup. If you look at his minutes so far this season, he played 30 against Minnesota, then he played 21.5 against Golden State. He did have 4 fouls, maybe minutes got cut for foul trouble, not sure. Then he played 24 minutes, 26, 28, 24. Then there was a game against the Lakers where he only played 17.5 minutes. That was probably just a bad matchup for him. I assume that might have been a game where Luka, I think that was the game Luka and Austin Reeves didn't play in. You would think, or I would have thought if Luka played in that game, it would have been a bad matchup because Luka, could get switched on to Clingan, and that's just a matchup that Clingan can't really compete against, going up against a guy like Luka. But yeah, only 17.5 minutes against the Lakers, but then 25 against OKC, 21 against Miami, 29 last game against Orlando. So his minutes have been a little bit sporadic, but if there's a spot for Clingan to play good minutes, I think this is it. This is a really good matchup for Clingan. Clingan's a guy who is going to do a lot of his scoring around the rim. Like he's your typical big man. Like he scores around the rim, he dunks the ball, he gets offensive rebounds. He's like a Rudy Gobert type. He doesn't really have much offensive game. He's going to score at the basket. And that's where the Pelicans are very vulnerable. Pelicans give up a lot of points in the paint. This is also a great matchup for Clingan to be able to dominate on the glass because the Pelicans have been a really bad rebounding team. Without Zion, they're going to probably be even worse rebounding. If you look at their rebound percentage this season, I think the Pelicans have one of the worst rebound percentages in the league. Third worst rebound percentage in the league. I think they're giving up the second most rebounds to centers. Second most rebounds to centers. Really good matchup for Clingan to be able to have success on the glass. And so far this season, Clingan's averaging about 16 rebound chances per game. And again, he's been doing that in about 24.5 minutes per game. This could definitely be a spot where his minutes get upped because I think the matchup does set up really well for him. It's a matchup he should be able to have success in. Obviously, there's some blowout risk here. The Pelicans are not a very good team. The spread is 8.5, but the Pelicans are playing at home, so I think that makes it a little bit more likely this game stays competitive. But if you tell me we're going to get 26 to 28 minutes from Donovan Clingan here in what should be a really good rebounding matchup for him, I think we got a pretty good chance at 9 rebounds. And if you look so far this season, in games where Donovan Clingan has played at least 24 minutes, he's had 10 rebounds, 15 rebounds, 8, 14, 7, 9, and then 6. And if you look at the games he went under against OKC. That's a really bad matchup for rebounds. He went under against Utah, and then he went under against Minnesota. Minnesota's also a really bad matchup for rebounds. So, the games where he went under this line, for the most part, were pretty bad matchups, at least for rebounds. This is without a doubt the best rebounding matchup he's had all season. So, again, I think it's a really good spot for Donovan Clingan to be able to have success on the glass, get some offensive rebounds, get some putbacks. It's a really good matchup for him. I do like him for more than 8.5 rebounds. So, that's what we're going to take, guys, as our 3 props for this Wednesday NBA slate. It's a 12-game slate, so obviously a lot of player props to choose from. This is what I'm liking, looking at the board the night before, recording this on Tuesday night. But as always, I will give out more Prizepicks plays for today. I give those out every day on Patreon. So if you want to check out the Patreon, that's linked down below in the description. You can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, guys, let's try and make some money here on this Wednesday slate. Go 3-0 and cash out tonight and hit all 3 of these plays. But appreciate you guys watching the video. Hit that like button down below for me before you do get out of here. Hit that subscribe button as well. And make sure that you guys have an account on Prizepicks. If you don't have an account on Prizepicks, use that code NOAH when you sign up, so that way you get those $50 worth of free lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Also, go check out Sleeper. We have a partnership with Sleeper. Use code NOAH over there. Get that first deposit matched up to $100, as well as getting that free $20 entry. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Let's win some money, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.